It starts with something so small, so easy to miss, that most people would scroll right past it. A quiet moment. A simple gesture. No grand stage, no flashing lights, no announcement. Just Jungkook in a kitchen. And a meal that wasn't meant for the cameras. And yet somehow, that's exactly why it hit harder than anything else. Because when fans, ARMY, began to piece together what had happened, the reaction wasn't just excitement. It was shock, confusion, warmth, and a flood of questions that still haven't fully settled. Did Jungkook really cook that for Park Jimin? Was it planned, or completely spontaneous? And maybe the biggest question of all, why did it feel so personal? The thing about moments like this is that they don't explode instantly. They simmer. At first, it's just a clip, maybe a live stream, maybe a behind-the-scenes snippet. Jungkook, casually moving around the kitchen, focused in a way that feels almost different from his stage persona. There's no performance here. No choreography. No pressure to impress. Just him, quietly preparing something with his own hands. And then someone notices. Wait, that dish. That's not random. That's something Jimin likes. Now suddenly, the entire context shifts. ARMY begins doing what ARMY does best, analyzing every detail. The ingredients, the timing, the expressions, even the way Jungkook moves, the care in his hands, the pauses in between steps. Because when you've followed artists for years, you start to recognize patterns, preferences, little habits that don't lie. And this didn't feel like coincidence. It felt intentional. But here's where things get interesting. Because Jungkook didn't say, "I'm cooking for Jimin." He didn't make a big deal out of it. In fact, he didn't say much at all. And that silence, that's exactly what made everything louder. Why keep it low-key if it was just casual? Why not mention it openly? Unless it wasn't meant to be highlighted. There's something deeply human about doing something kind without announcing it. No audience. No applause. Just the act itself. And maybe that's what people connected to the most. Because in a world where everything is shared, posted, and broadcast, a quiet act stands out more than anything loud. But fans didn't stop there. Because once the idea took hold, that Jungkook might have been cooking specifically for Jimin, it opened the door to something bigger. A pattern, a history, a relationship that's always been filled with these subtle, almost hidden gestures. Think about it for a second. How many times have we seen moments between them that weren't staged? A glance, a laugh that lingers a bit too long. The way they naturally gravitate toward each other in chaotic group settings. It's never forced, never exaggerated. It just happens. And that's what makes this cooking moment feel like more than just cooking. It feels like continuity, a continuation of something that fans have quietly observed for years. But let's pause here and ask something important. Are fans reading too much into this? Or are they simply noticing what's already there? Because there's always that line, right? The line between interpretation and projection. And it's easy to dismiss things as just fans overanalyzing. But at the same time, when hundreds, thousands, even millions of people independently notice the same detail, can it really be brushed off that easily? Or does it mean there's something genuine happening beneath the surface? Jungkook has always been known for his sincerity. The way he expresses himself, whether through music, actions, or even silence, tends to feel real, unfiltered. And when someone like that chooses to do something quietly, it carries weight. It's not performative. It's personal. And that's where the emotional reaction comes from. Because think about it. How often do we see genuine care expressed in such a simple way? Not through words, not through grand gestures, but through something as everyday as cooking. Cooking is intimate. It requires time, attention, effort. You're thinking about the other person, their taste, their preferences, what would make them smile. It's not just about the food. It's about the intention behind it. So when fans realized that Jungkook might have been doing exactly that for Jimin, it hit differently. It wasn't about shipping. It wasn't about labels. It was about connection. And that's why the reaction was so intense. ARMY didn't just get excited. They felt something. Some were surprised. Wait, did that really happen? Others were emotional. That's actually so sweet. And then there were those who simply smiled quietly, as if this moment confirmed something they had always believed, that beneath the fame, the performances, and the global spotlight, these are still people who care for each other in very real, very human ways. But here's another angle worth thinking about. Why does a moment like this go viral? Why does something so small overshadow big performances, major announcements, or even music releases? The answer might be simpler than we think, because authenticity is rare. And people can feel it. In a digital world filled with curated content, perfectly edited clips, and carefully crafted images, an unscripted moment feels almost refreshing, like a breath of fresh air. It reminds people that not everything is for show. Some things just are. And maybe that's what makes Jungkook's quiet cooking moment so powerful. It wasn't meant to be a headline, but it became one anyway. And as the conversation grew, fans started revisiting past moments, connecting dots, building a narrative that feels less like speculation and more like a story unfolding in real time. A story of friendship, of closeness, of unspoken understanding. Because at the end of the day, whether Jungkook explicitly said it or not, the feeling behind the action is what matters most. And that feeling? It came across loud and clear. Care, effort, connection. But let's not ignore the other side of the conversation. Because not everyone reacts the same way. Some people question it, doubt it, ask whether fans are romanticizing something that might just be normal. And that's fair, because cooking for someone doesn't automatically mean something deeper. But here's the thing. It's not just the cooking. It's who did it. It's who it might have been for. And it's the history behind both. Context changes everything. If this were a random moment between two people with no background, it wouldn't hit the same. But this is Jungkook and Jimin, two individuals whose dynamic has been observed, discussed, and appreciated for years. So when a new moment appears, it doesn't exist in isolation. It becomes part of a bigger picture. And that's why it resonates. That's why people can't stop talking about it. Because it feels like another piece of a puzzle that's been slowly forming over time. Now let's take a step back and look at Jungkook himself. He's grown up in the public eye. From the youngest member to a global star, every stage of his journey has been documented. And yet, moments like this remind us that there are still parts of him that remain untouched by fame. The quiet parts. The genuine parts. The parts that don't need an audience. And maybe that's what makes people feel so connected to him. Because despite everything, the success, the pressure, the expectations, he still shows glimpses of something simple and real. Something anyone can relate to. Because at its core, this isn't just a story about an idol cooking. It's a story about someone doing something kind for someone they care about. And that's universal. That's something everyone understands. Which brings us back to Jimin. Because while the focus has been on Jungkook's actions, there's another layer to consider. How does Jimin fit into all of this? What does it mean to be on the receiving end of something like that? And even more interesting, how aware is he of the impact these moments have on fans? Jimin has always been expressive, warm, and emotionally open. The way he interacts with others, especially with Jungkook, often feels natural and unguarded. So when fans imagine him receiving a gesture like this, it adds another layer of emotion. It's not just about giving. It's about receiving. About the silent understanding between two people who don't need to say everything out loud. And maybe that's the real reason this moment stuck with so many people. Because it feels like something we don't often get to see. Something real. Something unspoken. Something that doesn't need explanation to be understood. And yet, here we are, still talking about it. Still analyzing. Still asking questions. Because that's what powerful moments do. They stay with you. They make you think. They make you feel. So now the question turns to you. What do you see when you look at this moment? Do you see a simple act of cooking? Or do you see something more? Do you think fans are overanalyzing? Or are they picking up on something genuine? Because there's no single correct answer here. And maybe that's the beauty of it. It leaves room for interpretation. for discussion, for connection. And if there's one thing ARMY has proven time and time again, it's that even the smallest moments can spark the biggest conversations. So if this moment made you pause, smile, or even question things a little deeper, you're not alone. And honestly, that's what makes being part of this community so special. Before you go, I'm curious, what's your take on this whole situation? Do you think Jungkook really cooked that meal with Jimin in mind? Or was it just a coincidence that fans turned into something bigger? Drop your thoughts, your theories, or even your favorite Jungkook and Jimin moments in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you enjoy breaking down these hidden moments and uncovering the stories behind them, make sure you stick around. There's always another detail waiting to be discovered, and you never know which small moment will turn into the next big conversation.